Well, welcome again, friends. We are back in the room of sharing about how we can soar through the chaos that we are in. The Soaring Through Chaos series was started a few weeks ago with the intention of sharing life experiences, and that it is possible when we're going through crisis times, when we're going through challenging times, it is possible for us to grow. So one of the people I met is Muna AlSheikh, and she's an amazing person who has lived and traveled through many different lands. And she's an inspiration for me personally. And we both have grown together in many different ways over the last 8 years that we've known each other. Muna, tell us a little bit about your life journey and how you came to the United States. All about it, just anything you want to share.
Tinka, thank you so much for having me and doing this for the community at such times. I really appreciate it, and I resonated a lot with the stories already shared. The interview you had with Adam and Lakiba, it was very touching. So thank you for who you are and what you do. And I'm having some chocolate and just like we can have some virtual chocolate
Yeah, and
sharing
and for
together.
anybody who is watching this, this is our way of doing things. We believe in really sharing our life stories. So there are no right and wrong, but it's the truth that we experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Muna, so I met you almost 8 years ago when you were at the ITP, Institute of Transpersonal Psychology, and also in the Sufi circles and the dance circles. So,
We
but
met in a
you were
place.
not from here. You traveled from far away.
Yeah, my God, beautiful days those were when I was experiencing the dancing community in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you were one of those people. It's really beautiful. That was yeah, in 8 years ago in California. I actually just moved in there from Ohio to go for transpersonal psychology, a program.
And where were you born? Where did you start your life journey from?
My parents are, I'm originally Palestinian. My parents were born and raised in Jerusalem. Then my dad moved in the Arabian Gulf to raise a family. So my siblings and I were born in different countries. I was born in Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates. And when I was 6 years old, my father just decided to move us to Jordan to be with the rest of the extended family members. So I was raised there, got my education there, and then about when I was 23 years old, I got married and moved to Qatar.
Uh-huh. Back to
Lived
the Gulf.
back to the Gulf. I lived in Qatar for 3 years and worked there in a bank. It did not work out, unfortunately, that marriage. So I left and then ended up in Dubai afterwards to explore the multiculturalism there as well and live with my sister and work. During those 3 years I lived in Dubai, I was really fascinated, and my passion for exploring the world and studying cultures
Hmm.
and exploring spiritual practices became strong. So I decided that I wanted to travel to America and like study something in the human service field. So I thought of becoming a therapist. I applied and ended up a student on a student visa in America in 2008 in Cleveland State University in Ohio in mental health counseling. So I graduated from there as therapist and worked in the foster care system for a while in Ohio. After which I came to California for the PhD program in transpersonal psychology, and that's when we met in 2012.
And then what happened? Did you actually complete the PhD program? And
I did not.
what was your journey like after that?
So that was a pivotal year for me as well. The transpersonal psychology track was really intense on a personal and psychological level. Like spiritually and psychologically, there was a lot of work to be done. So I realized, my God, I thought I was like done being a therapist or like studying growth just in 3 years, but I realized there is a lot of work to be done, and even I saw it as important to dig in my inner world and help myself to be better therapist or helper to others. So I was very overwhelmed by that experience. It was an amazing school with amazing teachers. I was getting also sick at that time with autoimmune disease, but I did not know. So the whole thing eventually ended up in me leaving school thinking that I was going back to Jordan. I was like tired and thought maybe like this adventure in USA has come to an end. But the universe, I guess, decided that it was not my time. That's when I met my current husband. He's American, and he's actually as well like adding more to the personal growth journey, as I am Palestinian and born and raised Muslim, and he's American from Jewish Christian background and raised as a Sufi.
Wow, that's interesting. So he has all these influences,
Yeah.
Judeo-Christian and Sufi.
Yeah, and we are both very curious about the world in all its like diverse colors and spirituality, curious about the unknown, either on a like either in the science stream or in the cosmos. So like we try always to be open to what if there is more to what we don't know, and how about we bring people from diverse backgrounds together and embrace our diversity like we did in our own marriage and partnership. So I ended up getting married, and I got sick indeed, and I had a 3 to 4 year struggle with autoimmune called lupus, and it hit my kidneys. I had to stop my PhD. I got married. I ended up staying here, and I mainly, honestly, could not focus on anything because I was exhausted and losing a lot of protein, which affected my cognition and affected my health. So I couldn't do much, and like almost disabled and depressed. So I mainly focused on how to heal myself holistically and focus on my relationship with my husband. So it was an intense journey throughout. I discovered there is more healing and work to do within myself. And I realized around that time that I actually wanted to become peace builder, a peace activist. And that's what I've been involved in the last 3 to 4 years. I live in the Santa Cruz mountain here, about an hour and a half south from San Francisco. I do social activism in Santa Cruz, and I'm a peace activist with Combatants for Peace, who are grassroots, binational, nonviolent resistance movement founded by ex-combatants, Palestinians and Israelis, and they come together to try to find solution and peaceful way to what's happening there, as it is violent and it's not what people want. What they're like, they decided to take their destiny in their hands by saying no to occupation and no to violence, and trying to bring both nations and people getting to know each other's stories and standing together for justice and living in peace in that part of the world that's very troubled.
And I was so fortunate to attend that, get together you had about 2 months ago,
Yeah.
where there were people from various parts, Jewish, Arabic, as well as from various people came together to talk about peace just before this whole pandemic came to America.
Yeah.
We
And I,
met at very critical times in our lives.
my
I first
God.
met you 8 years ago, and we
Yes.
did this Embracing the Rainbow workshop
Yeah.
talking about diversity. And you had just gotten married, and then you went through this whole falling second healing journey, and here you are working on peace.
Yeah, my God, it's been an amazing journey of introspection and discovery, and like, what can I do within me to be able to better understand the world and psychology of people who fight each other, and like figuring out conflict resolution, my inner world, and how I can become better in order to be of better service and help to others. And yes, we had beautiful workshop, you and I. We improvised around embracing our diversity and had a very intimate, close group. This event, two
That
months
was my very first one in the realm of finding inner joy or inner peace. And I didn't know, I thought at that time you were already a clinician, you had studied your clinical psychology, you had experience in therapy. So I was thinking, she knows it all. And what I'm hearing from you is that was your first workshop as well. Such an amazing
You know
coincidence that
what? Whoever claims that she or he knows it all, they are still way ahead of them. The more we learn about the world, oh my God, and even about the cell and about the outer space and about ourselves, we are like iceberg.
that's true.
There is a lot underneath the surface, and it's honestly, I mean, like coming. If I want to tie it to how navigating these chaotic times, I've been reading and listening to different teachers and spiritual leaders in the last 2 months. And what I'm realizing, the need to truly come back to our home, which is inside of us, and the need to be humble and recognize with that we are all interconnected in this world, and how as well it's invitation to again go in that inner journey to restructure and do things differently, actually be differently so we can do things differently. There is a whole new like re-envisioning of the world talks going on right now, that things will not be the same, and at least if we work on ourselves to maybe become, as Sadhguru say, I became recently student of Sadhguru, is like my favorite this year.
Interesting, interesting.
Sadhguru, John Kabat-Zinn, Brene Brown. I also got introduced to recently to Byron Katie's work. But I'm a student of Vipassana and John Kabat-Zinn and Sadhguru, and like the commonality is always questioning how we can be better and show up better in the world to be of service, really.
Did you know most of the names you mentioned, we interviewed them when I was at the Center for Compassion at Stanford.
Ah, really?
Yeah, Sadhguru, I gave him a hug. My hobby at that time was giving hugs to all these people. So Byron Katie also came by at Wisdom 2.0, and Sadhguru came to the Center for Compassion, a talk with Dr. Jim Doty, and of course the Dalai Lama came twice. And who else did you mention? Yeah.
In depth,
John,
in depth, I've been following and practicing, honestly, the work of Brene Brown and John Kabat-Zinn mainly. Sadhguru is just my new teacher.
Yeah, Brene came and talked about shame as well as the vulnerability, and amazing work.
Honestly, her work helped me a lot in how I showed up in my recent event. that you attended here, which
Wow, wow. That was amazing when you were actually talking about the journey of being in the Arab world and what it was like to be a woman in the Arab world.
yeah,
To be had to have that courage to say, these are things I love about my culture and these are things I cannot, these are things that are difficult.
yeah.
To have both of them was really amazing. Not only you, but also the other women who came from the Arabic.
Yeah, yeah, my talk with my friend activist, she's Saudi, her name is Samah. We're both activists, and it's honestly not easy to share publicly and vulnerably about our fears and struggles doing this work, because it's not easy. It's really, it's shaking it's rocking the boat, and it's defying tradition and culture that we both were raised in and have love and respect for. Yet to decide to see the world from a different angle and challenge the status quo if it's not really bringing justice and equality and compassion to all of us. So speaking about it anyway, like, to be activist is really hard work. There is a lot of inner activism that need to be done, and I'd like to have the guts to speak about it as well publicly and vulnerably, as Brene Brown puts it.
Amazing work, and I'm so grateful for the work you and Sama and the Israelis are doing together. Uh, I actually worked for an Israeli company for 2 years. That's how I speak some Hebrew. Although I come from Indian background, and I'll go like a lachaim or a lot
L'chaim,
of these Pesach Chag Sameach, and I've been practicing. It took me 6 months to get that, you know, literally 6 months.
oh, like, yeah, it's easy for me because I speak Arabic.
Arabic.
I still need to learn Hebrew, but I'm learning Spanish right now as like in a new language to develop at such times. It will help in the future.
You know, it's interesting. I'm right now in Mexico and I've been learning Spanish for the last 2 months. There's no choice.
I'm
I'm
glad
quite,
you got stuck in Mexico. I'm glad you're there to like practice a new language.
yes, yes, muy bien, muy bien. I've been practicing Espanol every day. And if all I need is practice, I go to the pharmacy or I go to the grocery store.
Just be
Every time
out.
there's a new word.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just be out in the street and talk to people. That's it. You're learning it.
Yeah, yeah. Even with the lockdown and quarantine, there's a lot of freedom here. It's much more flexible. As I'm using this time to actually learn Spanish and revise my Urdu with friends from Pakistan as well as Sanskrit. So yeah, there's not much to do but meet people and cook. So I've been cooking every day.
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect time to learn language and do more cooking. Yeah.
So that brings me to the point that I get asked this question all the time. For some reason, there is this belief that if you studied psychology or neuroscience, that you know it all, and we know that's not the truth. But is there something you can say based on your journey? How, during difficult times like these, when there's a real risk of loss of life, or loss of job and income. Many, more than 30 million people have already lost jobs in the United States alone. And I know that number is in crores or about tens of millions in India and around the world. The tourism industry, Hertz declared bankruptcy today, Neiman Marcus, JC Penney, long list of things that are changing. And physically, we know a lot of people have
Yeah.
either lost their lives or have been in intensive care. What would you suggest people do? Because this is the time for us to really find that ground, and it
Yeah.
seems to be elusive right now. What do you suggest, Muna? You've seen so many things in life.
Wallahi, I'm aware that such calls and conversations are probably targeted towards certain group of people who have the time and luxury to look into self-growth. I'm honestly like a privilege to come and tell this to, I cannot say this to people who are struggling to put bread on the table, or who are facing poverty, or having to, they are losing their jobs, or or cannot feed their families. And, you know, the need to exist and have food and have shelter is way more necessary for many groups of people than like surviving right now. It comes first before spiritual growth or like self-reevaluation. But for those who can afford it, like us, and I'm honestly privileged in that sense. Alhamdulillah, I have time to be at home. I don't have to work. Right, I'm not like struggling financially. I'm sitting with myself to be really to come out a better human being after this ends. And I remember Sadhguru said that if you, for those who can afford it, if you really just take this time as in a universal home retreat and try to be better, even 10%, that's great. Either better, stronger spiritually or physically or mentally and emotionally. So I've been doing lots of meditation and re-evaluation of what kind, I'm questioning what type of job and work that I want to do right now in the new world. That probably has nothing to do with my, nothing to do, but I'm re-evaluating my skills and looking into what is my passion now, what I would love to do in the world, what kind of work and jobs besides activism. I'm talking about like jobs and I'm finding that through my like reflecting on my values and evaluating who I am. I wish to be part of the younger generation education, honestly, in how to be more resilient and take care of our hearts and minds. And that comes with, because I've been doing a lot of self-work, honestly, for the last maybe 15 years. And I'm realizing we need this to be better in the world. And especially in this uncertainty and crazy, uncertain, scary times, with what's happening globally with climate change and politics and the rise of racism and division and violence in the world, I feel like my new reincarnated life in a way after COVID is I would love to be part of educating, coaching, empowering the younger generation. Because I always thought I wish I had people in my early age of life when I was a kid to empower me and raise my self-confidence and tell me you're good enough and you have skills and you can do this. And I wish I had mentors. I did not. And I feel at such times where we are all interconnected and kids can hear and see everything on the net, it's really overwhelming to the nervous system, like hijacking every cell in us. And I'm sad to read that suicidal rate is going up in the US. I'm sure there is more anxiety and rise of fear and depression and maybe hatred towards certain groups rising globally. So we need more catalysts for and people to do work with the younger generation on how to be more inclusive and function from the heart, really, like how to be heart-centered and master your mind to go forward either with their dreams or careers, or how to be of amazing social justice or like social
yeah, I get the sense.
My brain language centers for some reason shutting down right now. Like, you know, like catalysts for what's the new world will be like. You know what
Yes,
I'm saying?
You know what you're saying? What I feel, Muna, we're probably going to evolve into a new way of describing this new world. It's not there yet. It's happening in front of us.
We're
The old
tapping
world is
into it.
crumbling.
And John Kabat-Zinn talks about this a lot, like how to be like mindfulness and meditation is way of life, and how to tap into our hearts and think differently about how everyone influences everyone at the end. We are all in it together, either climate change, economy, everything.
Sustainability, yeah.
Sustainability. We all need to jump in and think of us rather than just me, the story of me.
And the last 2 years I've been going, especially around India and later South Korea. I actually followed the Corona trail. I left India and I was in South Korea and everybody was with a mask on. And I said, okay, I can't stay here. I don't even speak Korean language. All I can say is, kamsahamnida, annyeonghaseyo. I won't be able to survive if I get quarantined. So I came to the United States and I told them, there's Corona coming. They're like, no, it won't come all the way here. And 2 weeks later, like less than a month later, we went into shelter in place, and I left just before that to come to Mexico. So yes, this is a major shift that's
You
happening.
did not get sick. Oh my God, you've been traveling amidst this, and you did
Well,
not.
the closest. Well, I stopped traveling after coming to Mexico City, Cuernavaca.
You followed the trail of it.
Yes, from South Asia. It started in Southeast Asia or a little north of South Asia. It hadn't come to India yet, but I met it in first place where I saw people suffering was in South Korea. That was about 2.5 months ago. From there, I came to the United States, and that just started. The COVID cases had started. And then I said, no, I don't think I want to be quarantined. I'm on this journey of doing compassionate leadership. So I came all the way to Chihuahua. And the first case started in Chihuahua when I came to Cuernavaca. This is near Ciudad de Mexico, the capital of the country. And then I just sat down because it didn't make sense to run away.
Now look how much you achieved, like the last couple of months traveling and doing the work you do. You're so inspiring. I love your free spirit. And
it's actually not as much achievement as sharing. And I love to hear from people like you. Many of the people I've worked with in the past. We did interview Sadhguru 8 years ago, but more recently I'm interviewing the people who, like you and I, who have been working in the area of either activism in your case, or in my case, working with youth. And then people like Adam, who have been working with veterans and adults who are going through difficult challenges, and Lakiba, who is working in inclusive circles. Yeah. So there are hundreds of people who have been influenced through first their own life and then presenting it. So if there's any one thing you can tell to people who are going through difficulties, what would that be? What are the things people can do? What you told me is your journey, and I'm telling you my journey. But how could people go through this? Because it's very easy to get distressed.
Yeah.
Your whole life you've been doing things through challenges, right? Whether it's on the Middle East or coming to the US.
What I learned from my teachers, and I've been listening to John Kabat-Zinn honestly a lot recently. I would just really like pass the torch and pass the message that I've been reminding myself and hearing a lot. That is just remembering that we're breathing, and for that we can be grateful, and just trying to tune in to be here, like be in our bodies, and remember that there is a breath and there is something good happening with us and in us, and trying from that space of being very conscious and following mindfully the breath and our feelings and sensations from that space, which is anchor of stabilizing us. It's like being the eye of the storm. That is the place from which we need to show up in the new world right now. I don't feel we could go on doing the same thing and having the same patterns like we used. And I'm thinking right now of Einstein saying, you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created it. We have dire issues to think about now, not just like how we hold our lives and how we pass the days, but how we are contributing to the society, what we're doing for climate change, how we are taking care of our well-being so we have better impact, not just that we be better, but everything is contagious. Our energy is contagious, our anxiety is contagious, our compassion is contagious, our fear is contagious. So if we're not trying to be grounded and anchored in at least something good that's going well for us, which is if we can breathe, if it's not breathing, choose something else. But just taking the body temple as home, as starter, and go from there, and being conscious of our energy really, and how it's guiding our actions, not be sucked in emotions, how that is guiding our actions, and how it's impacting others, our impact on others as well.
And I mean, from a neuroscientific perspective, what you were talking about was emotional contagion,
Yeah.
and how any and every feeling that we have, we create a field between each other where our emotions, our thoughts, the concepts, the beliefs that we hold influence each other. We are social animals. And
Yeah.
even the plants around us, the food we eat, the air we breathe, that together forms the body mind complex. We're not just these individual bodies. What you're saying is that we have to become careful of the contagion, emotions, thoughts, concepts, beliefs together.
There's electromagnetic field to our being, and there is impact of our thoughts and feeling. We cannot really like define the limits of our physical or emotional or mental.
And more we are finding it. There was this belief that it's all in the body, but the body is like a cell phone. And these cell phones are all talking to each other. So the field is not one individual cell phone or one individual body, but the interactions. It's about time we create a workshop together.
It is. Oh my God, we are like different persons. Like now, we grew a lot, definitely. I imagine in the last 8 years. So like we re-envision a workshop of.
At that time, I had a simplistic notion 8 years ago that embracing the rainbow meant that each one of us comes with a distinct color, not necessarily physical color, but like a certain stereotype or archetype.
Yeah.
Me from India, and you from the Middle East, and your husband, Judeo-Christian Arab, and so we had this. There was the idea of static personalities, if you will, or and embracing and supporting each other. And now we are realizing that that's not true at all. Yes, I still have some accent from India, and you have some from the Middle East, but the reality is that's the superficial. The color of the skin or the color of the hair already is changing. But what's interesting is that deep inside, we are all shifting. And yeah, it's about time we have this dialogue. Tell me more about this dialogue. Have you been actually having these dialogues with people lately? I know you have been through the center that you are supporting, the combat.
Honestly, yes. And after the event I did locally, just like few weeks after the shelter in place happened. So I've been mainly, honestly, just investing in myself, in how I can think and be better, and still in touch with my fellow activists, either here or there in Palestine, Israel, and like the national organizing committee here in America.
So you are very much in touch with each other.
I am.
During this whole shelter in place.
Everything is on Zoom right now.
Everything is on Zoom. That's true. Even you and I are talking on
like right
Zoom.
now. But what I so appreciate about, like, look how this new thing is created out of us being isolated at homes. Yet there is a lot of resonance I feel and connection happening virtually. Just to mention what you're doing and the people you're interviewing, and how similar we felt. Like I found part of my story listening to Adam. My God, there's a lot that I found myself in his story, and Lakiba as well.
And Adam, speaking of externalities, Adam Byrne is from the United States, grew up in the Northwest, and served the United States as a United States Air Force officer, and he's been doing apparently different things, but the inner experience, what you're talking about, or Lakiba Pittman
What
worked
he
on
said.
color, people of color, as well as diversity and inclusivity. Amazingly, there's a convergence of the work that's happening.
Yes, like what you and Lakiba said, something stood out for me, that we go into something thinking we're gonna teach or give something, but we end up being taught by our students and anyone we listen to. And Adam, he's a counselor therapist right now, right? But
Yes,
in
yes.
military.
Yes.
And
So where were we when we got zoomed out? Let's continue from there.
I was saying that what I resonated with in Adam's story is to be courageous enough to question how we are showing up as therapists or counselors, and to admit we're all humans, that we still need healing and work to do before we really can do good and help others. At the end, that's like a universal principle, do no harm, you know. And when we realize that we're not being able to do that job or function in the level that we really aspire to, it's time to go inward, shift things, and do more inner work. So that's what I feel, the situation, what's happening right now in the world. Like I look, for example, at people who are fighting more right now, being stuck in home, families, feuds, you know, violence is rising against women, so suicidal rate is going up. And so it's a big change for people to just sit with themselves and watch their minds and think about life and how to reevaluate things. I see it in my own family, the anxiety and fear and restlessness of just sit, do nothing, which is valid. Yet for those who can afford really and have we all have no other choice but to get in touch again with our hearts and think differently about things, and build on the awareness and consciousness that we already have, to be bigger and fuller, and to embrace other elements and other aspects of life that we need to focus on, like our community, our work. Maybe we need to reevaluate that, our relationships, either spouse or kids or friends, our own well-being, the well-being of the country, what can we do in where we're living, climate change. Everything that's happening globally is impacting us energetically, either we like it or not, or we want it or not.
And Muna, as I'm hearing you, what I'm realizing is that a lot of the workshops, the activism, and even the counseling that people were doing, I think the fundamental nature of it is likely to change during and after this COVID, during this Corona times, because we now see the interconnectedness of it all, whether it's Adam's story from Adam Byrne is actually somebody who grew up in the Pacific Northwest and served the United States as a U.S. Air Force officer, and has been helping both civilians as well as people from the military to bring their life back. And you, from the Middle East who has lived in the US now for what, almost 12 years. Very different life experiences, or me from India, having lived here for 30 years. Yet the common humanity in us is saying that it's time for us all to have together, the togetherness and having a dialogue together, to be able to serve things together. So with that thought and with that clarity, that we are all having a human experience of what it's like to go through chaos, and that we cannot keep thinking about what life was before, the malls and the excitement, but maybe we'll have to rethink the whole thing and go forward. And
Yeah.
that's so precious. That's so precious to me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time for new workshops and new ways of dealing with old things.
I truly feel in my heart it's time to come together to navigate the chaos and the challenges facing humanity and Earth. It's not about me or a nation in particular or a certain group. It's really about us and how we come together right now rather than drifting more apart. That's what I'm getting. This is the lesson out of how we go inside our own inner self and be better, to connect better with everyone and think of everyone as like whole unit.
And speaking of that, we just had some of the most amazing celebrations from almost every culture you can think of, starting with Good Friday and Passover and Easter Sunday, all done in isolation, mostly at home, and the holy month of Ramadan. So Eid Mubarak to people from the Middle East and those of Islamic faith. For people from the Hindu faith, we had our celebration of the spring festivals, Yugadi, New Era. What's interesting is we all celebrated at home in different ways, but really
New
celebrated New Year.
way of celebrating our traditions and religious rituals and everything. It's amazing, whole new experience.
It is, it is. So again, thank you again to all of you who are with us. It's been a beautiful journey together. And as always, Muna, would it be okay to share your contact information, particularly on Facebook ID and Instagram and any of the, how can people get in touch with you if they want, if they have questions?
I am honestly not on Instagram. I'm still finding my way through the social life on the web, but
what's the best way to get in touch with you if people have questions?
LinkedIn.
Of course, they can write to me, but if there's another way.
If people would like to reach me directly, there's email address, Facebook, or LinkedIn.
Great, we'll share that. And again, if there's a lot of interesting questions and queries, if there's a need, we will have a continuation of this dialogue. And again, thanks a lot, Muna. Every time we meet, I learn a lot from you. It's been 2 months since we last met. And before that, we met like 7, 8 years ago. So let's not make it so far apart in future. And maybe there's somewhere what we can all do together.
I look forward to being more in the world with you, Shankar.
Thank you. Thank you.
More in the world. And thank you for all what you do, and everyone, and thanks to everyone who is just trying to navigate. Blessings to everyone who's trying to navigate such hard times. We all have a different path and different stories, yet it's an invitation to come together and see how we can do it together.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Shankar. Bye, everyone. Bye, Shankar. Thanks.
Bye.
A lot. Bye.